Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a special Sunday night edition of Miami Total Football Radio, the show, the number one Inter Miami focus podcast, slash YouTube show slash program. We'll go with that. As you can see, or as you will hear, if you only listen to the show, Jose Armando Rodriguez, aka Island Jose, aka Cinco, joining me here today with a very spiffy shirt. Looks like, I don't know, it looks like a baseball shirt to me.
It is a baseball shirt from the Águilas Cibaeñas from the Dominican Republic. So
Okay.
shout out to all the Dominicans and Edison Ascona also.
How you got a hold of that shirt is probably a story in and of itself.
Yes.
But we will save it for another time, Jose, because we have a jam-packed episode of Miami Total Football Radio, the show. And yes, this is the English version. If you want the Spanish one, I'm trying to get it lined up for Tuesday. See if Alonso is the one that joins me. I don't know if Jose's schedule permits. He's busy these days with Inter Miami Dolphins ahead of their season ramping up. There's a lot going on, and I can already see that the comment section thinks that this is the Spanish show, but this is not. If I sound funny to you, well, my name's Franco Panizo, and this is part of what I usually sound like. No, I'm actually a little under the weather. Poquito de gripe, as we say, or some countries say gripa. Bueno, I'm a little under the weather right now. I'm also on call because my missus is due any day now. So if in mid-show I'm like, sorry guys, I gotta go, then so be it. Because yeah, she's due any day now. The newest edition, the summer transfer window signing for the Panizo household. Jose Armando, my friend, we have a lot to get to. I was busy clipping the different sound bites. I don't think we're gonna get to all of them because we have the hour and 10 minutes that we are sticking to. We're still working on being on time, but that's a work in progress, step by step. But Jose, we've got
you need to work on
that. We've got like 1, 2, 3. I think I clipped 11 different sound bites, so I don't think we're gonna get to them all. V Vega says my second favorite Latino Inter Miami pod. That's fine. We'll take it. If we're your second favorite, we'll take that. Jose, we've been what, 9 days since the last pod, so there's been 3 games that have been played. And we're not going to dissect each one. We're not going to go into tactical analysis, but we will touch on each one because a lot's happened. The first one was the Inter Miami victory over the LA Galaxy, where one Lionel Messi returns from his injury only to re-aggravate it and suffer a setback. So that's why we have to touch on that game. And Inter Miami did win. They got 3 points. Messi was key there in that victory. Got a goal and an assist off the bench, if I'm not mistaken. Was it 2 assists? 1 assist. Going off the top of my head here. All the same, Inter Miami won. But Messi left that game, I don't know if you want to say in an upset manner, but he could not wait to leave the field. When the final whistle blew, he was out of there. Bolted towards the locker room. He was already near the closest point to the locker room before the final whistle was blown. Goes straight to the locker room, heads to his car pretty quickly shortly thereafter. And then we find out, obviously, a few days later against Tigres, he's not in uniform, so he suffered a setback. Now, we don't know if it's the same injury. We don't know if it's a different injury because Inter Miami has not shared any specific details with regards to that. I think it's safe to assume, and again, this is an assumption, that he probably re-aggravated the injury. He has not played since. There are questions about him ahead of Wednesday's semifinal, Leagues Cup semifinal against rivals Orlando City. Jose, did Inter Miami rush Lionel Messi back? Did Lionel Messi rush Lionel Messi back?
Yeah, I'll take the second one. I think, we have criticized before Mascherano and Tata Martino about, just not being able to make decisions for Messi at times. We all know how things work in this team. It's, whatever Messi wants, that's what usually happens. And, Mascherano has said quite a few times during this season that nobody knows his body better than Messi. And so at the end of the day, yeah, Mascherano has a responsibility within a normal football environment, but this is different. And Messi is to blame. It was a miscalculation. I'm sure he doesn't want to get injured, especially before the FIFA window. So yeah, I think this one is on Messi. It felt like he was ready, and he was.
I agree with you on that. Let's listen to Mascherano on Messi. This is in English. This was right after his return in the victory over the LA Galaxy.
He wanted to play every single game. He wanted to play in Orlando also. It was impossible. But it's like this. You have to understand why Leo is Leo. Because always want to be on the pitch. He's happy there. So sometimes we try to explain him, trying to go slowly, but at the end, when he feel good, he knows himself like no one. So at the end, we tried to give him today some minutes to start to find good feeling for the week, for Wednesday, for the next games.
So this is another example, Jose, of Messi calling the shot as to whether he played or not. Yes, is
It's
that
pretty
clear?
clear.
Is that
He
clear?
said yeah, absolutely. I mean, he said sometimes we try to explain to him. So, there's not, he doesn't sound like the head coach that would actually go and talk to Messi and let him know, look, the medical staff told me you can't go this week. So, you're going to have to rest and we'll see you next week. We'll see next week how things go. No, that never happens. He said sometimes they go and tell him how he's doing. I mean, it's pretty clear.
In that game against last place LA Galaxy, Inter Miami wins 3-1. By the way, goals from Jordi Alba, Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, but Messi helped make the difference, of course, off the bench. But while he did that, he didn't look too comfortable. You had a good video that you shared on Twitter, and if you guys have Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, because I think Jose posted them there as well. I would encourage you to follow us. Here are the social handles. There's mine. There's Jose's right there, and pointing to them, because we share video content that you might not see on the broadcast from a different angle, of course. And Jose shared a good video where Messi, for an extended period, was grabbing his leg, the same leg he had injured. Didn't look that comfortable. Now, you could even see during his movements and his involvement in the game, wasn't his usual self, even during those 45 minutes that he played. Now, he still, again, made the difference with, two very good plays, a back heel to Luis Suarez for an assist, a goal where he goes at a defender on the dribble and then shoots from distance to pick out the bottom left corner. So those were little moments where he looked like himself, but over the course of his substitute cameo, just was largely I don't want to say that because he was a difference maker, but it just wasn't what we normally see from Lionel Messi. It was a step or two less, not as involved. And again, he looked like something was ailing him. Now, one more soundbite here from Mascherano. This one's in Spanish. I'll translate after.
Pasa que es un jugador extraordinario. Es decir, la realidad es que lo que vos viste, yo también vi, que claramente no estaba 100% cómodo. Ahora, la realidad es que con el correr de los minutos fue soltándose cada vez un poco más. Habrá que ver cómo terminó en cuanto a la fatiga. Él al final lleva 2 semanas de la lesión. Había sido algo muy, muy chiquito, que los 3 entrenamientos que tuvimos fueron buenos y bueno, te vuelvo a repetir, lo importante es que terminó el partido, yo lo fui viendo con el correr de los minutos mejor, pero bueno, al final lo que hay que ver es mañana cómo amanece, cómo se va sintiendo y ir día a día.
So to summarize, he says at the end we have to go day by day. Obviously, at this point, we didn't have a whole lot of information, but the key part for me in that is the beginning where Mascherano acknowledges that Messi had some discomfort there. He wasn't at 100%. Well, that comes back to bite Inter Miami in one way because he's not available for the very important quarterfinals Leagues Cup match at home against Tigres this past Wednesday. A lot of people favor Tigres. You're wearing one of their colors, at least the yellow. And by the way, we're not Mexican for anybody, any of the new followers or the listeners out there who think we're Mexican just because we've become or we've asked critical questions as of late, but we'll get to that. Lionel Messi misses the game against Tigres, but Jose, they put forth without him still a very good performance in the first half, especially. They bossed possession. In my opinion, they weren't overly dangerous. Like, they didn't generate a whole lot of chances in that first half. They ultimately go on to win this game without Messi, without Jordi Alba, because he suffered a knee injury in this match and had to come off early in the second half. We'll talk about what exactly happened there in a little bit. And with Javier Mascherano given a red card. We will dissect that in good detail here in just one moment. I'm sure plenty of listeners are dying to hear our take after what was an eventful last few days. But Inter Miami goes on to win that game 2-1. A couple of penalty kicks, a penalty kick brace, doblete from Luis Suarez. Jose, before we get into the meat and potatoes, what do you think about Inter Miami's performance? Because I don't want to overshadow all of it entirely with the Mascherano talk that we will have here in just one moment. But I do want to talk about their performance, el rendimiento de Inter Miami, especially in that first half against Tigres.
I think it was good. I really liked the team in the first half. I know we talked about it. You were telling me they didn't have a lot of chances. Yeah, which I agree. But I thought they dominated the game. I think, having those type of performances against a team like Tigres, it's pretty clear with me at times that, MLS is not that big a motivation for Inter Miami. There are particular games that, we just see an Inter Miami that is lacking energy. We saw it against Orlando a few weeks ago. Even against LA Galaxy, there were times where they were just not good enough. And then all of a sudden they play Tigres. They know it's a big game. They know Tigres is a very good opponent. And then we see this type of performances. I think that's the one thing that moving forward, Mascherano is going to have to find a way, for this team to play, to find some consistency in the level of play, because there's a huge gap between the first half against Tigres and then what we saw against Orlando a few weeks back. So I think it was a good performance. I really like the team. I really like that first half. And in the second half, here's El Candado de Mache, when he gets into that mindset of forgetting about scoring, but just concentrating on not conceding a goal, that's when he runs into trouble. And maybe, that's something that he would evolve as a coach, and maybe with other team with more resources, then he might be able to be a little bit more aggressive. But a
more
good game
resources. Jose, Inter Miami has 5 big name players.
Yeah, but defensively, they don't have a lot. So, he needs to bunch everybody around so that, he can compete. But I'm saying this is long term. When he feels a little bit more comfortable with what he has, when he can actually build a full roster. I'm not necessarily talking MLS type of Mascherano,
You talk about Mascherano in La Liga.
In Mexico. I think Mexico would be the first step after MLS. But, he has a little bit more freedom, and maybe he feels a little bit more comfortable with the team he has. I mean, it was pretty clear yesterday, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it was pretty clear that they don't have a deeper team. Yes, I deserve one. I deserve one, but they're not a deeper team as we all think they are. But again,
no sé dónde están. Acá están las tarjetas. Lo estoy buscando. Looking for the tarjetas. I found them. I found the cards. Jose, I don't disagree with you fully. Like, I don't want to discount or say that I disagree with your opinion about not being motivated. I would say maybe in my opinion, that's a slight part of it. Again, I think, and this goes back to June and the Club World Cup, I think more of it has to do with the style of play, because Inter Miami against the Liga MX team doesn't have to play such transition football, right? It's not so back and forth. It's more possession based. Both teams want to have the ball. Inter Miami did a better job of being on the ball and generating chances. Generating possession and long passing sequences, even without Messi, which obviously is probably a big reason why they couldn't turn that into opportunities,
But
clear-cut scoring opportunities.
But it's not about that, Franco. I mean, it's the energy level. That's when you're interested in doing
I
something.
mean, it's also a quarterfinal. Like I said, I don't want to discount you. I think Yannick Bright said it best after that game in terms of he wasn't talking directly making the point I'm making, but he said something along the lines of a match not being like a tennis match. I think he used tennis as the reference because in MLS it is very back and forth. I used to always call it ping pong soccer. It's just very transitional, very back and forth. And we know that Inter Miami with the players it has, older players, tired legs, a lot of miles on those legs. They can't compete. Now they've gotten a boost in that regard with Rodrigo de Paul. Since Rodrigo de Paul's come in, they've been a little bit better in that regard, but still not their forte. It's not no su fuerte. And again, my opinion, Liga MX team, they don't test you as much in that way. So I think that helps Inter Miami. That allows them to feel more comfortable and grow into the game and feel like the team that they want to be, which is a possession-based team, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, they win that game. But of course, Jose, I think it's the biggest talking point, aside from Messi not being available, and the victory itself might have been bigger than the victory itself from a media standpoint or a talking standpoint. Javier Mascherano's red card. He gets sent off, and we're going to be as thorough as we can here. He gets sent off after halftime as he comes back to the bench for actions that occurred at the start of halftime. The full whistle blew in stoppage time. And Mascherano, we saw it clearly from our seats in the press box. You and I sit together side by side, just like we do on this lovely virtual show that we have here. And we both saw that Mascherano had some choice words for the referee, very animated, very emotional, which passionate, typical fiery Mascherano.
Which we've seen before.
Yes,
we have seen before. For him.
It's trademark for him. He said something to the referees, and the referee's reaction with the assistant, they were like, well, like they stood frozen for a second, like did he really just say that? So apparently he didn't get a red card right then and there. It wasn't until he came out of the locker room for the start of the second half that the red card was shown. Tarjeta roja para Javier Mascherano. And then, well, the fun began. Chaos ensued. It was one of the strangest things, one of the wildest things that I've seen in my 15 plus years covering football. Mascherano suspended, red carded, ejected, goes to the VIP section in the stands, which is literally the first row behind the bench in the bleachers, and begins coaching from there. Now, Jose, you and I have been accused of not knowing football, teniendo menos fútbol que, no sé, una receta de cocina. I don't know. A lot of different sayings have been thrown around as what I've seen on social media, which, hey, look, I'm fine with it. It's all good. It's all gravy. But yes, we've seen different coaches go into the stands. We've seen different coaches try to communicate with their coaching staff in one way, shape, or the other, which, again, I acknowledge that happens. I'm Jose nodding his head, so I imagine he's also acknowledging that it happened.
Oh, yeah. I've seen worse than that, actually.
But the point is not that whether it happens or not. The point is, should it have happened? Now, again, we're going to be as thorough as possible. During the Leagues Cup game, when we saw that Mascherano was giving indicaciones, when he was giving indications and feedback and instruction to not only players on the field from up above shouting. The broadcast also caught this, by the way. So it's not just, something that we saw and nobody else saw. The broadcast caught these moments. Not only was he shouting, barking, he also gets caught on his cell phone, which is why this, part of this title for this show is Mascherano's cell phone. And it was just, it was a lot to take in. I was like, what are they doing? I was literally shocked, befuddled. I asked a Leagues Cup spokesperson who was in the press box with us. The initial response was the following. Let me read it here. Yes, here it is. This is what I tweeted. Being told here by a tournament spokesman that the official rule is that Mascherano cannot give instruction to his players or team due to his ejection. Mascherano is, by rule, allowed to sit in the stands. So he didn't break a rule by sitting there where he was.
Right.
Although, and that was considered a designated area for a coach, which is mind-boggling in and of itself, and that's more of a criticism we have for the Leagues Cup, which we can talk about.
Yeah,
And
I think in that particular point, there was no designated area for a coach if he gets ejected. That was something that they just
created on
didn't
the fly.
think. Yeah, they just didn't think it would happen, and so there was no designated area because the excuse that that's the way the stadium it's built, and I don't have any other choice but to be there. It's not correct because we know the stadium and we know there's a place for him upstairs where the players that are not on the roster for each particular game go and watch the game from.
It's a booth. It's
So,
like a little booth.
yeah, so there is a booth upstairs right next to the press box where he could actually, and that's actually where he should have been.
We hear, sorry, just to interrupt.
Yeah.
But we do hear, I don't know if it's the analyst or an assistant coach that's up there to watch the game from that vantage point, but we do hear them react to games. Whoever's in there, we hear them react sometimes. Whether it's good or bad, we hear some curse words at times. We hear some clapping. We hear some banging of the tables. We hear that in the press box, that booth next to us. But go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. So there was no designated area. That's just the reality because that's a seat for somebody that bought a ticket. Or let's just pretend it's like a season ticket holder area. A fan could have been in that seat very easily, but a fan cannot be in the upstairs booth next to the press box. So that can't be a designated area. I doubt it that when they built the stadium, they planned and said, well, if our head coach gets a red card, the designated area for him to sit would be right behind the bench. Impossible, just impossible. So I don't buy that was the designated area for Mascherano in this case.
So you don't buy that was the designated area. That's what officially we were told. We were officially told that is, again, I'm under the weather and I can hear that I'm nasally, but officially that was the designated area for a coach who was red carded. Whether you take Jose's premise or not, the fact is that, my opinion is, and I think a lot of people have this opinion, probably a bad decision to have that be the designated area because it's right behind, literally directly behind Inter Miami's bench. So a coach, yeah, he can sit there, but he can also do what Mascherano did, which is be in earshot of yelling some instructions, which again, he was seen on the broadcast as doing. I would not be at all surprised, and Jose, I would actually put money on that no longer being the designated spot going forward. Like on Wednesday against Orlando City, I don't imagine that Javier Mascherano will be able to sit there or anywhere in the stands that is close to being able to shout instructions to his coaches and some players.
Or right next, or on the suite right next to the bench, where he actually mentioned a few days later. I could have been, so I guess Leagues Cup should send him a letter thanking him for not sitting right next to the bench and actually coaching, because that would be on the field actually.
To his point, the rules do say that in a suite. Now, obviously, when it says suite, normally when you say suite, you imagine, upper level suite, right? That's normally where the suites are. Now, Inter Miami's, stadium construction, Chase Stadium, the suites, at least the suites that, fans sit in, Jorge Mas and Jose Mas, David Beckham sit in, they're on ground level, right? So an MLS type of thing. So that's what Mas just said. I could have sat there, is what he was saying, a few days ago.
Right, but that's so misleading for me because he can actually be in the furthest seat to his team, and he didn't go there. Why didn't he go there? Because it didn't make sense for him to go there, right?
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you at all with regards to that, and that is misleading. But by rule, again, I'm trying to be as thorough as possible here. By rule, he could have, and it was allowed. Now, again, now we can go into our opinion, our supposition here in just one moment. Beyond being able to shout instructions, there was a moment on the broadcast, and then again, we saw from our eagle eye vantage point directly above the bench in the stands, where Javier Mascherano is on his cell phone, and he's, giving instructions. He's very animated. Typical Mascherano, normal. And the broadcast cuts to the assistant coach on the field being on a cell phone with, I think he had a headphone in, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And clearly talking back and forth. Mascherano was asked about that on Friday, and Mascherano, which we'll share here in a second, said he was talking to the studio analysts up above in the booth, not down on the field to anybody. Well, let's look at the images here, because I do have a video that I want to share from this past Wednesday's game where you see Mascherano very clearly on the phone. You also see his assistant very clearly on the phone. So wait a minute. If he was talking to his assistants, what a coincidence that when he hangs up the call, the assistant puts his phone away almost immediately after. Wow, what a coincidence. What a coincidence, Jose. Well, I mean, ¿qué tal coincidencia, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty clear.
It's pretty clear. And the rules, as they're written right now, I imagine this will not be the case going forward, especially going into next year and beyond. They don't prohibit that. There is a rule in the Leagues Cup, and I went through this the night of, the next day. There is a rule that says prohibited, or I don't know what the word is. I went through this, but I didn't study the terminology. Essentially, it says prohibited form of electronic communication can get you a 1 to 3 match suspension, but that's to get a red card. It doesn't say anything about using communication after you get a red card. That's what could be warranting of a red card. It also doesn't specify what is authorized or unauthorized. I think that was the word, unauthorized communication. I jokingly told people in the days after that unauthorized communication are Samsungs and anything of the like. Authorized is iPhone and anything related to Apple, since Apple is the broadcast partner. So if he had a Samsung, maybe he gets in a little more trouble. Because he had an iPhone, maybe they don't make a big fuss about it. That's a joke. But Jose, clearly, there is no rule for it. Again, the main crux of the issue here for me is that the Leagues Cup rules are poorly written. It's a thrown together tournament by MLS and Liga MX, right? Yeah. So they didn't flesh it all out, think about all the possibilities. Obviously, this is a rare situation, not one that you might normally think of immediately, but in football, you have to be prepared for everything.
Another reason why they should go by FIFA rules, and that those are already written and they are proven every single day that they work. Well, not all of them, but they do work. At least everybody knows them. So maybe next year they should just go ahead and play by FIFA's rule book. And one thing that caught my attention from Friday is that there was really no excuse needed when it comes to using the cell phone, which is something that probably Mascherano was not aware of, because Leagues Cup already gave him the okay. And if the rules allow it, then I think it's still not good for the game. I don't think it's good that he's allowed to communicate with his team. But fine, if the rules allow it, then it's fine. My problem with the whole situation is that he not only communicated through the phone, but he was actually communicating with his staff and players. I think that's the part where then why did they give him a red card then?
Right. What's the point of a red card if you can still coach? Now again,
and the same thing, I would say the same thing if Oscar Pareja gets red carded on Wednesday. It's just about the integrity of the game. That shouldn't have happened, and I'm sure if it happened the other way around, Mascherano will complain about it.
Which is why we're going to get to the 2 sound bites.
And you know what? I'm going to share something that I'm not going to name names, but on my way down, I was talking to a Tigres representative about this particular situation. And they were very well aware of what was happening. and they were not happy about it. They just didn't go out and say it. And I don't know if it has something to do that Guido Pizarro is the head coach, and maybe he was not aware at that point, but they didn't make a big fuss about it. But I know for a fact that somebody highly ranked was not happy with this.
Of course.
And they might complain about it.
Of course. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot happening behind the scenes right now in terms of Wednesday's game. Because again, if by rule Mascherano is allowed to sit there in a designated area, then what stops him from doing the same thing on Wednesday night against Orlando City while he's serving his 1-game suspension, right? So I know that there's talks going on. He's probably not going to be there, but I do want to hear his sound bites before we put a bow on this conversation, because I want you to distinguish the two tones that Mascherano speaks in. The first one is when he's asked about the cell phone, and the second one's a longer back and forth. And I want you to tell me what you hear or what you interpret. So we'll listen to the first one when our colleague Fernando Petrocelli, el gran Petrico, asked Mascherano about being on the phone.
Con el teléfono estaba hablando con el videoanalista.
Okay.
Tenemos 2 videoanalistas arriba que
Okay.
firman los partidos, que ven las situaciones.
Perfecto.
Y
Perfecto.
hablando del...
Pero te voy a decir una cosa, es muy normal hoy en el fútbol que los videoanalistas se comuniquen con el banquillo, y muchas veces se pregunta, es normal, es decir, si empiezan a prestar atención, hay un montón de cuerpo técnico que tienen handy, que tienen walkie-talkie, pero esto no pasa ahora, hace 20 años que pasa. ¿Por qué? Porque el que lo ve de arriba ve muchas más cosas que lo que vemos nosotros abajo,
Sí.
como lo ven ustedes,
No,
es
no,
decir,
total.
y analizan ustedes el fútbol. Bueno, no entiendo, chicos, estaba hablando con el videoanalista.
Why are you smiling, Jose?
I don't
Why are
know.
you smiling?
That's so hard for me to believe, really.
Again, I want you to listen to the tone, not just the words. I want you to listen to tone. How would you describe his tone there?
I don't know. I just don't believe him. I don't know what. More than his tone, his facial expressions will lead me to believe he's not telling the
interpret
truth.
all of it.
Yeah.
The words, the facial expressions, the tone. To me, and this is mi lectura, my reading of his conversation, of his comments, sus declaraciones en ese momento, in that moment, es como un niño mentiroso. He's like a lying kid. He's lying and he's trying to convince you that,
Which he didn't need to. He didn't need to, because
he was
what
like-
he did was
no, you
he's
know what
allowed.
I think it's because of, well, no, there again, because of the rule book, and there is a rule where it says unauthorized communication. Maybe he was a little scared about that because he didn't know if that could cause him to get an issue. But again, by how it's written, it can't. But maybe he didn't understand that. That's my supposition. I also
just think he knows that any other place in the world that would be trouble.
I think
yeah.
because Petrico was not one of the group of us that did have very pointed questions in the exchange I'm about to share. And because Petrico was like, okay, he's like, okay, I found someone that believes me. And then he just kind of kept snowballing and trying to sell the lie of, oh, I was talking to studio analysts. It's very normal this day and age. If you look around the world, everybody, people have walkie-talkie. Like, it just didn't. It seemed like he's like, they're believing me. Let me add to this to see if I can make this sound good. Now we're going to share the very public exchange that I shared on social media, that you shared on social media, on the YouTube channels as well. This is a little bit longer. It's a little bit more fiery between Javier Mascherano, myself, Andrea Yanes, our other co-host, and you as well, where we did press him on the issue of where he sat. And I asked him, while acknowledging that he didn't break a rule, if, like you mentioned earlier on the show, if he would like it if another coach did what he did. So this is what starts the exchange. I'll translate as best I can for the high points afterwards. Si fuese al revés, si fuese el equipo contrario, ¿te parecería bien? ¿Te gustaría
¿Que vaya a la tribuna?
Que vaya a la tribuna y indique, que haga los cambios, que hable con su cuerpo técnico de manera directa? Porque si no, se le quita la roja. ¿Para qué la roja entonces?
Porque no puedes estar ahí. No es lo
solamente
mismo.
para que no estar
Preguntarle
ahí.
a un jugador si es lo mismo que el entrenador esté a pie de campo
¿Aceptarías a Pareja ahí si lo hubieran expulsado a Pareja? ¿Aceptarías que Pareja hubiera estado sentado ahí o hubieras
No
reclamado?
es lo que yo acepto.
No, pero te pregunto porque...
No sé, están armando un escándalo de algo, me parece, chicos, le dan importancia a algo. A mí me interesa hablar de fútbol, pero
Estamos
bueno.
hablando, es un tema importante.
Cuando
¿no?
vino la regla de Messi, dijiste que hay que cambiar esa regla. Entonces,
¿Cuál?
La suspensión por el All-Star
Y
Game.
sí, ¿a vos te parece que no?
Pero entonces,
Elegir, y si yo me fui a la tribuna, no
Está
entiendo
bien, yo
lo
no
que
digo
está
que
diciendo.
tú rompiste la regla, estoy preguntándote si piensas que
Y
esa
pero
regla debe
entonces,
cambiar.
¿cuál es la, pero para cuál es la regla? A ver, Franco, decime, ¿qué opinás vos? A ver, si te mandan a la tribuna, ¿qué? ¿No estar en el estadio? ¿No puedes estar en el estadio?
Para mí, si
Sí.
quieres mi opinión,
Sí.
si te dan roja a un entrenador, el entrenador no debe poder entrenar directamente. Para mí, esa es mi opinión.
Perfecto, yo te digo una cosa, ¿vos creés que hoy en día, como es la tecnología, los entrenadores no tienen acceso a
Por
comunicarse
eso
con
dije
su cuerpo
directamente-
técnico?
Dije directamente con los jugadores. Esa es mi opinión.
Directamente con los jugadores. Es que yo no le di la indicación, o cuando entró Noah Allen, o entraron los cambios, vos me viste que Noah Allen o alguien vino al lado mío y yo le indiqué, o se lo indicaron
A Benja sí, sí vi que indicaste algo táctico, sí.
¿A Benja?
Sí.
No, los
Tengo
que
video.
fueron, sí, pero los que fueron a indicárselo, yo le puedo gritar, pero los que le fueron a indicar qué es lo que tenía que hacer en la pelota parada, en los centros, cómo defender, cómo atacar, sí. Después, si vos te parás en el medio de la tribuna y querés hacer con una bengala señales de humo y que el jugador te vea, ¿por qué no lo puedo hacer? A ver, al final estoy en la misma posición que cualquier espectador. Ahora, estará entre el jugador primero, qué bueno que los jugadores me hacen tanto caso. Entonces, significa que soy buen entrenador, che. Me parece que están armando algo que no, miren chicos, el fútbol es los jugadores, los entrenadores, tratamos de ayudar. Y te vuelvo a repetir, si está bien o está mal, yo me adapté a las reglas. Lo otro es, voy a hacer todo lo que sea posible para ayudar a mis jugadores. Si a alguien le parece mal, me parece perfecto. Se hacen tantas cosas mal, mira si yo no voy a poder hacer alguna mal.
Bueno,
Jose, you're smiling again, Jose. Are you just a happy guy on this Sunday, or what's going on? Why are you smiling? Tell me why you're smiling.
No, it just I honestly like the exchange because I think it was pretty fair on both sides. He exposed what he wanted to say. We have to give him credit as well because at some point, he was asked to stop or just cut the press conference a little bit shorter than what it was, and he said, "No, it's fine. We can keep
nice,
talking about this," which is great.
He
And
said, officially, he said in Spanish, dijo, no, un par más, me gusta, which translates to, no, let's do a couple more. I like it. And look,
Right.
again, full credit to him for taking it on head on. He didn't answer the questions directly, right? Like I asked him, would you like it if another coach did that? Andrea followed up with, if Oscar Pareja did that, would you like it? He didn't answer that. He kind of weaved his way out of it, which he does, Jose. When he gets asked tricky questions, he just pushes it back or frames it back to the reporters. We've seen it now a few times this year. And sorry, continue.
No, so I give him credit for that, and I also give him credit for being available so often, for us. So I think our relationship is rocky with him. Sometimes some days it's better than others, but some days are better than others. But I think overall we're in a good place, and in this particular scenario, I think he's gonna he's gonna keep his point, and we're gonna keep ours, and we're gonna have to move on. I believe that things will change, and I think that will be the end of the story here. Whatever happens on Wednesday, which I believe, just like you mentioned a few minutes ago, the fact that he won't be sitting in that same chair,
Right.
it's gonna, or if he is sitting there, then I guess we are crazy here. But if it's not, then I think that proves the point at the end of the day.
And I would like to clarify, because I told him, he asked me for my opinion there, and I told him that I thought directly that coaches should not, after they've been red carded, have direct communication with their players. I actually, if you want my full-fledged opinion, I think you mentioned this earlier yourself. I don't think if you're red carded, you should have any communication with the technical staff or the players, whether it's directly with your mouth or on the phone or via text message. That's my opinion. Now, is that realistic to implement in 2025 when there's so much technology, when the assistant coaches have, iPads and all these other things because they're monitoring the players and all this? Is that realistic? Maybe it's not realistic. But that is, if you ask me for my opinion, and I didn't say this in full with Mascherano, I said something slightly different where I said just direct communication with the players. I think there shouldn't be any communication at all, because that's the whole point of the red card. Otherwise, to me, what's the point of a red card? Just leave him where he is. That's again my opinion.
Right. That was also when I asked him about is it good for the game? Because he early on in the tournament, with the whole Mexican referee situation, he felt affected by it, and he said if the tournament wants to be serious, then they have to look into this, which they have fixed because we know this will happen next year. It's just a matter of refereeing, a different conversation. But they fixed that for Inter Miami. So you can have an opinion about how to better the tournament early on when it benefits you or provides an excuse for a result. And then when something like this happens, then it's okay. So people, make mistakes. People do things wrong. So why am I not allowed to have one mistake or make one thing wrong?
That was
it's not. It doesn't work that way. So for the health of the competition, it might even be fair play. If you're red carded, just take the red card. Just take the red card. If you want to have your say with the referee, do it in front of him and move on from it. And there are rules in some other places about this. There are rules in other leagues about if you get a red card and you're still in communication, then another punishment follows after that. So it's not in the reality of the rules and regulations for Leagues Cup this year. It might change moving forward, but I wanted to get his opinion about, is this healthy for the game or not, which he didn't ended up answering. But fair enough. I think it was a heated moment, and he also didn't want to get more than the 1-game ban, which he ended up getting. So I think he might be fine with the end decision. Yes.
I think that key point at the end where he says, so many things are done wrong, why can't I do something wrong once? I mean, clearly there you're acknowledging then that you're doing something that's probably not right. But again, kudos to Mascherano. A lot of respect for at least having the conversation, having the discourse with us.
Yes.
And
I think this
professionalism throughout. No, go ahead.
No, I think this is the main point within this whole thing. We're there to have this type of conversations with him so that fans actually get that insight. If we're not there, Franco, if we don't ask those questions, then people don't know exactly what happened. It could have been that Mascherano felt that he didn't deserve a red card. And he tells you the story that, look, I didn't say a single word. It was my assistant coach and the referee thought it was me. If he tells the story, that's something that we don't know and that nobody asked after the game. And at the end of the day, it might be unfair for him. This is obviously not something that actually happened, but it's an example of us being there, asking the questions so that we can translate that information and we can bring everybody watching in the pod or in our websites or anywhere what actually happened.
We're trying to inform. And the reason why I had so many rebuttals was because I wasn't buying, the BS, because he was again trying to skirt his way in and out of it. While he did respond and he acted professionally, he was trying to skirt through the response. That's why I pushed him on when Messi was suspended after the All-Star game. He said very clearly that he thinks that rule should change, that rule shouldn't be in place anymore. Right? He said that very clearly. So I asked him, does he think this rule should change? And again, he tried to bob and weave like a boxer, and he did a good job of it because he didn't answer it directly. But that's why I kept pushing to see if we would get something more out of it, because he was clearly not being direct in his response. But all the same, again, kudos to him for having that exchange with us. It was one of the more tense moments. We also have nice moments with him where we laugh and we joke. It's just one of those moments this year.
It's a long
We're-
season. A lot of
Exactly.
things
It's
happen.
part of it, man. It's part of it.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
we have a job to do as reporters, as media, as journalists. He has a job to do as the head coach of Inter Miami. There's tension there naturally because we have different goals and different things we need to accomplish. So that part is part of it. It's part of it. And again, it was respectful, professional. It was I thought a healthy exchange. Louis says it was a valid argument. Well done, thumbs up. Andy Diosa, our boy out in the West Coast, colombiano. Para decir mentiras está solo Mascherano, and he's laughing. Jerry Barrios says, to me, the phone issue is secondary to making sure a coach sets a standard of behavior for a team. Well, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there for you guys to dissect further. But let's move on, Jose, to the next talking points, which is Inter Miami. The transfer window came to a close earlier this week. Inter Miami brought in one player. Now, they also got rid of, well, I don't want to say get rid of, what? Yeah,
Well,
they did get rid of.
players.
Well, they brought in one player in the last few days.
Oh,
So Miami, I lost you on the sound.
counts, I'm saying.
I don't know what it got choppy for me, so I still didn't hear you. But okay. Miami traded officially Drake Callender earlier in the week. In return, they got $750,000 in general allocation money, split into $400,000 in 2025 and $350,000 in 2026. They could receive another $75,000 in conditional GAM as well, depending on performing incentives. So that's what they got from Charlotte FC. We talked about the end of Drake Callender's time here on the last show that you and I did 9 days ago in English, so we won't rehash that again. But Inter Miami did bring in one player, an attacking player. Let's see, where is it? Here it is. Inter Miami announced it has signed attacker Matteo Silvetti from Argentine top flight club Atletico Newell's Old Boys to a contract through the 2029 Major League season with an option for 2030. The talented the talented Argentine youth international attacker joins the club as part of MLS's under 22 initiative, pending receipt of his international transfer certificate and P1 visa. What are you doing? What are you doing? So Inter Miami signs an attacker. I don't know much about him other than he's played for Mascherano at the youth Argentine level. So another one of those players that he's familiar with. Should push, it seems like, or it sounds like, Tadeo Allende for that starting spot on the right side of the midfield if and when he gets going. Because obviously when you're a summer signing in MLS, sometimes even the top players from abroad have struggled in their first few months as they get integrated to the new lifestyle, the new playing style, a new team, new teammates, a new way of life. A lot that goes into it. So we'll see when he gets here, how quickly he can play, how quickly he adapts. That'll all take time. This is what Mascherano had to say about the signing. With the last question of that fun exchange or that fun interview there, this was the last question. I asked him about Silvetti. This is what he had to say.
Bueno, es un chico que lo conozco, lo tuve en el último proceso de sub-20, un chico muy inteligente, con unas capacidades físicas importantes y que creo que va a venir a potenciar lo que tenemos en esa posición, alguien que puede jugar por fuera, puede jugar por dentro, inclusive puede jugar de delantero centro, se adapta a diferentes circunstancias, un perfil algo parecido a lo de Tadeo Allende, quizá con más uno contra uno, y un chico que, ya te digo, sobre todo una cabeza muy bien amueblada, que también eso es importante.
I thought that last part was very interesting. He points out, he says, tiene una cabeza bien amueblada, which I mean in English would directly translate.
It's a hard translate.
He has a well-furnished head, which I mean the point is, he's got a good head on his shoulders, I guess would be the more literal translation.
Yeah.
Which I'm curious why he points that out, why he signaled that as being important.
I think that's a very important asset right now. If you're coming in as an Inter Miami player, this is no time for you to think, oh, I'm playing with Messi. No, yeah, I mean, especially for him coming in, he needs to have an impact. So I think that's maybe along the lines as to why Mascherano said something like that. It's gonna a lot of things are gonna change for him, and especially looking how things are going with Tadeo Allende, there's an opportunity there. Oh my
Absolutely.
God, there is an opportunity.
If he can hit the ground running, then Tadeo Allende has someone that can really push to take that spot away from him. Because Tadeo Allende, for the good moments he's had this year, the high moments that we've seen from him, example, the goal at the Club World Cup against Palmeiras, and as of late, he's been struggling big time. Big time.
Yeah.
A lot of calls from the fans to have him benched, yet he continues to start game in and game out. We got to speak to Tadeo Allende on that fun Friday morning as well. A couple of different sound bites from him. I would like to listen to both. So we'll listen to the first one here. I asked him about, the bad moment he's having right now. I do point out, I'm going to translate here beforehand. I do point out that he continues to make, good runs, showing good movement, but that the final product, the shooting, the controls, they're getting away from him. They're not at their best. So this is what he said in response.
Mira, me estoy sintiendo mejor. Estoy trabajando mucho en lo personal que bueno, como lo he dicho en un par de ocasiones, que eso, viene el movimiento, todo, pero ahí el último, los fallos en la definición y eso, me está costando, pero lo estoy trabajando y sé que lo voy a mejorar.
So quickly to summarize, he says, he acknowledged that his movements are well, but that he's working on improving. That's something he hasn't really said lately when he's been asked about his inability to put chances away. He said this before. He's working on it. He's trying to get better, etc., etc., etc. Now, the second one here, and I think this was your question, where he talks about his confidence. I think this is what you asked. And he talks about not being as confident right now, which would make sense, right? Given that he's going through a rough spell, a rough patch right now. So this is what he said with regards to his confidence. This was more of an illuminating, insightful response, in my opinion.
Muchas veces también pasa por confianza, por el tema de confianza y me pasa de estar no con la confianza en lo máximo, pero trato de trabajar y de llevarme buenas sensaciones todos los días en las prácticas para alimentar mi confianza y mi autoestima para que el día del partido tenga un buen control, ¿no?
He says this happens to him, that he loses confidence. Now, we didn't follow up with why that is. I can assume, my assumption would be that, he goes through maybe, some bad spells where the goals don't come as easily as they do in other moments, and that really impacts him. But essentially he talks about having to nourish his confidence again and nourish his self-esteem. He even mentioned self-esteem, my self-esteem. So
could it be that he's running out of gas? I mean,
maybe.
I'm going to have to go back and check when was the last time that they played so many games. Might have been a while since the last time this happened in his career. So I think it could be, but at the same time, it's a matter of, in my opinion, mainly not having the competition in training sessions. I think he knows Mascherano doesn't rate Fafa as high, and whenever Fafa comes in, he takes usually he takes the Lasco Segovia's place. Obviously, didn't happen in this last game because we'll talk about it why. But usually when Fafa comes in, he comes in for Telasco and not necessarily for him. So I don't know. I think that's something to really go into because he had so many opportunities lately. Tadeo Allende could very easily have 15 goals by now. Easily. At least 15 goals. And we're talking 15 goals. That's not bad at all. I mean, the top scorer in MLS has 20.
On Messi's team, yeah.
Right, and you wouldn't, correct, yes. And you wouldn't expect any other player on Messi's team and Luis Suarez to have 15 goals. And he could very easily be at 15 right now. It's crazy.
Yes. So we'll see what Silvetti does. We'll see. I mean, Tadeo Allende continues to start game in and game out. My opinion is because Mascherano likes the work effort or the work ethic. Sorry, the effort and the work ethic, the two-way play, and the fact that he's the one player that can stretch the defense with his speed. I've touched on that throughout the course of this year. He's the only player in the starting lineup, if you look at the attacking or the front six, that has the wheels to do so. Suarez doesn't do it. Messi doesn't make those runs in behind, obviously. Telasco's not that type of winger or attacker. Obviously, your two central midfielders are central midfielders. So he's the only one that can really stretch that back line, make those runs into space and behind, and keep the defense honest is maybe the best American phrase. So he'll continue to start for the short term, most likely. But we'll see what Silvetti does when he gets here. Jose, very quickly, you touched on this earlier. What grade do you give Inter Miami for their transfer window? Because they brought in Rodrigo de Paul, and now they brought in Matteo Silvetti. They did not bring in a center back as they were linked to. There were a lot of reports in the last couple of days before the deadline happened that they were trying to get it over the line. They were trying to figure it out because obviously MLS has budget concerns or restrictions, so they had to find a way to creatively fit him in there. Apparently, it looks like they could not do it before the deadline hit, so he is not coming. No reinforcements at the back. So while you get rid of, again, Calendar, David Martinez departs, I know you had put out some information that there was interest in David Ruiz. In the end, the players brought in were De Paul and Silvetti, both Argentines, continuing that trend that we've already talked about. This team being very, very in favor of the Argentine flavor and the Argentine the Argentine nationality. So we've talked about that. We can talk about it more later on as the year goes on. So what grade do you give this transfer window?
Let's see. Look, the Paul is a big signing. The only reason why they're still in contention in League Cup is because of Rodrigo de Paul. I think the games against Pumas and Tigres are, and the main reason why they were able to overcome those two teams, it was because De Paul was playing in those games. So I would give them an 8 out of 10.
So is that a B?
That's a B, yes. That's
you have to give them a letter grade, a B?
I would give them a B because the Paul is big. Although, we don't know who's making the moves.
We still don't know. We know, but we.
No, I mean,
officially, we don't know.
And we don't know who the Chris Henderson is.
Jorge Mas told me when we spoke to him not too long ago that we would find out soon, but we still haven't found out. Jorge, come on, man. I know maybe you're waiting for the Messi renewal announcement, and he's hurt right now, but come on.
Yeah, I think an 8 is fair because the Paul and look, to be fair, the Paul is not necessarily, an Inter Miami signing. That's a Messi signing,
Messi and Inter Miami are the same thing these days. So,
but it's Inter Miami, so I'll give them an 8, and I think it's a good decision to bring in a young player, at the top and especially if he can take over Tadeo Allende or put some pressure on him, I think that's a good call. Because then, if Tadeo is not playing, then he can play as a 9 in any time you need to give Suarez a break, or if he's not available. So I think that's a much better move than just bringing another striker, another 9, to sit in front of Allen Obando or behind Allen Obando. I think that was a good move, well thought. And the one thing that I would say was not good is if you're looking for a center back and you feel like PO is not going to happen, try to make a move within MLS. That would make things a lot easier.
A lot of Argentines in MLS.
Yeah, there's still Argentines in MLS. So look at them. They still have an Argentine passport. So maybe bring somebody from within the league, so that he's available sooner. That's the one thing that they were lacking, but the De Paul signing makes it okay.
So I'm going to almost agree with you, but I'm going to go a rung below. I would say a C+. It's So if you want to put it at number, you could say a 7.8. DePaul is a big signing, not only from the media aspect and the marketing aspect because of who he is. He definitely bolsters the midfield, brings more quality there. Another attacking option to push that Allende makes you deeper. Could even make you a lot more dangerous if Silvetti pans out immediately. But they didn't address the back line. They needed a left center back after David Martinez departed. Obviously, they were working on it. They were trying, but they didn't get anything done and over the line. So for that, I give them a C+. Are they better today than they were before the transfer window began? Yes, but they didn't address their most glaring position. So C+ for me. C+ for me. Wish we could ask the questions of why weren't things finished on time, or what were the complications specifically, or why wasn't there a plan B, or if there was a plan B, who was the plan B? Because all we heard was POV. So, but we can't because Mascherano says, I'm not the whistleblower. I'm not gonna, snitch on anybody or point the fingers at anybody. That's somebody else's area of expertise. Go find that person to talk to. But of course, for much of this year, Jose, we haven't, not much of this year, all of this year to today, we have not spoken to a sporting director or general manager. Moving on to kind of wrap up the show, we'll touch on yesterday's game. Inter Miami traveled to the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. to take on DC United. It was a 1-1 draw. Golazo. One of the best goals for Inter Miami this year from Baltasar Rodriguez. No relation to Jose.
When he scores, yes. When he scores, yes.
He's Argentine.
I'm a side. I'm a side Argentine. According to record books.
Hey, by the way,
I cannot prove it, but I made a call, and yes, I am 2% Argentine.
Parentheses, little space here. I've seen a lot of comments about us being Mexicanos ardidos, but neither one of us is Mexican. I don't have any Mexican relatives or anything in the pipeline. I am Peruvian, American Peruvian, or Peruvian American. I do have both passports, but I was born here in the United States. Jose is Catracho, a proud Honduran. So there's no Mexican here. Just for those of you Messi fans.
Sorry to disappoint, but no.
Or the Argentines that think we're Mexican. We're not Mexican. And Jose. So they tie last night at DC, which is one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference. Now Inter Miami rotated heavily in this game. We saw faces that we normally don't see or have not seen in a long time.
Right.
Ryan Saylor came out of witness protection.
He was a starter.
The FBI allowed him to come out of witness protection to start in the nation's capital. I guess there was enough security there to help him. David Ruiz got an appearance. A lot of the substitute players. Obviously, the rotation is done with an eye on this coming Wednesday's game against Orlando City at home at Chase Stadium. The Leagues Cup semifinal showdown. El Clásico del Sol. Sunshine Clásico. Florida Derby, whatever you want to call it. And what do you think, very quickly, of last night's game? And is a tie a decent result given the personnel and the opposition?
I think initially it was a throwaway game. They didn't care about this game at all. Because Mascherano previously has told us that he doesn't like to make a lot of changes because that goes against the chemistry of the team. So players feel uncomfortable. So he mentioned that quite a few times because there have been scenarios within this season that we expect him to do what he did last night, and he ended up making two changes. I don't think he never made that big a change. From players that we expected not to play. There were sometimes he plays Ian Frey or Chiloega, but those two players, they see playing time regularly. I think that 1-1 draw is only okay if, and this might be unfair, but it's only okay if they win on Wednesday and if they're not short by 2 points to win the Supporters' Shield at the end of the regular season.
Por favor, Jose. I don't think Wednesday's result comes into play at all. I understand the thought process of prioritizing Wednesday. They haven't won anything this year. This is, at least for now, their best opportunity to do so. They're 2 steps away, win the semifinals, win the final. So I understand going all in on that and rotating here. I mean, look, they won the Supporter Shield last year. If they win it this year, it would be a nice feather in the cap, but it doesn't, it's not anything new. They've already accomplished that. They've already done that. And again, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really give you anything. Cool, you won the regular season as the best placed team. It's an unbalanced regular season. Not everybody plays everybody. You don't play away at everybody. So it's a nice feather to have and a nice feather in the cap, but it doesn't mean much in the end of things. The playoffs still ultimately determine, the success of a team at the end. This was the starting lineup for Inter Miami: Rocco Rios Novo, Chelo Weigand, Gonzalo Lujan, Thomas Aviles, Ryan Saylor, Noah Allen, Benjamin Kremaski, Telasco Segovia, David Ruiz, and Fafa Pico and Tadeo Allende. Rodrigo De Paul, Sergio Busquets, Luis Suarez, Baltasar Rodriguez, and Ian Frey came off the bench in the game. No sight of Lionel Messi. No sight of Jordi Alba. Jordi Alba left the game again against Tigres with a knee injury after first half collision. Hobbled on the field, finished the first half, soldiered on. Surprisingly came on in the second half to try to play through it. Literally lasted a few seconds before he went down to the ground. Inter Miami wasted a substitution window there. I imagine with all the chaos that was happening at halftime with potential red card that became a red card that probably didn't even address it. Didn't come back to bite Inter Miami on that one, but it was a mistake from the coaching staff there, regardless of what was happening. So neither Messi nor Jordi Alba, 2 of them were dangerous, if not the most dangerous attackers on Inter Miami today. Question marks around their participation for Wednesday against Orlando City. Hosted, this is Sunday night, a rare Sunday episode of Miami Total Football Radio. We don't know yet the latest, other than they didn't play yesterday or dress yesterday. Do you see them, as of right now, as your prediction, do you foresee them being available on Wednesday? And if they are, in a starting capacity or as a substitute?
I think Jordi doesn't play. I don't see Jordi playing on Wednesday. And Messi. I don't think Messi plays.
So neither player.
Not information, again.
Right. Supposition.
Yes.
Opinion, prediction, suposición, sensación, because these days we talk a lot about las sensaciones here in South Florida.
De Drake.
De Drake. Bueno, Tadeo también habló de sus sensaciones. No tengo las mejores sensaciones. I agree with you. I don't think either one plays. I think if there is a chance for one of them to play, it's probably Messi because he'll push to play, even if it's just off the bench. Orlando has had Inter Miami's number this year. Again, I'm going to try to get a Tuesday show in Spanish where we do a proper preview. I might, if Alonso can't do it, Alonso's, Mr. Orlando. He lives in Central Florida. I might have Petro come on. I might invite Petrico on and we can have a conversation. You're always welcome, Jose. I don't know if your schedule permits, but you're always welcome, especially if Petrico's on.
You know what? I want to be on the show in Spanish, but I haven't. I just checked right now while you were talking about it. If I've had received my schedule for this week, but I don't have it yet. We'll see.
Oh, the invitation's always there, Jose. So,
right.
But we'll see. Because I mean, you and Alonso were actually having a good back and forth in the mix zone when we didn't even know if it was going to be against Orlando City yet.
He wanted a trophy for the Orlando win the other day. He wanted a trophy.
Well, I would
can't give you a trophy.
That's why I would love for both of you to be on Tuesday if it's possible, because it would make for great viewing.
I think the real Orlando City Inter Miami game is coming up on Wednesday.
That's the
I'm
big
just
one.
going to leave it at that. That's the game.
Is it the most important game in their short history?
It is.
In the rivalry.
I mean, in the rivalry, yes. I mean, that is the game. That is the game. Because now Orlando, they have won 2 games, scored 7 goals. Now it's time for Inter Miami to respond. I believe they will respond. I'll tell you right now. I think Inter Miami will win the game easily, even without Messi.
Easily.
They win it easily.
Wow.
They win it easily against Orlando. They'll take
Without
this one
Mascherano?
seriously.
Mascherano.
Yeah, he said he's not that important. So I'm gonna take his word for it.
Espera, me están llamando. Hold on.
So I think they win on Wednesday, and I think that really should be the start of a rivalry. That really should be the start of a rivalry.
It is the biggest match in their short history so
Yeah.
far. It means something for both sides. I mean, Orlando probably wants to lift the trophy. I mean, not probably. They need to lift the trophy. They're close to doing it. They're having a good season. Pedro Alese, the Peruvian goalkeeper, was the hero in the shootout victory, made 2 saves in sudden death penalty kick rounds, I think 6th and 7th, and then steps up to score the decisive one. He's in a good run of form. He caused Inter Miami some damage this year, not only with that Luis Suarez punch save when Suarez tried to clip him from pretty much midfield, but Galese also hit that long assist to Luis Muriel in the first game. Caught Inter Miami's defense napping. Tigres tried to replicate that on one sequence early in the game where they try to catch Inter Miami napping, but it didn't pay off as well as Orlando City's did. You think Inter Miami wins? I know it's tough to beat a team 3 times without Messi and without Alba. Está complicado. Está difícil, man.
With
Está
Messi,
difícil.
I mean, it could be terrible for Orlando, but even without Messi, they'll win it.
It's tough, man. I don't share your enthusiasm or your confidence there.
Inter Miami fans, make the plans. You're going to the West Coast for a final in a week's time. I'm telling you, they're going to win that game. Orlando's not that good. And Luis Suarez is scoring. Rodrigo de Paul believes this is a rivalry. You know how when you believe, this whatever people are saying, and then you go into the game and you're like, yeah, and then all of a sudden you're there and you're scoring 3 goals on that team that just scored 3 on you. It's MLS. I think they can win this game. They can win it easily. No doubt.
Lo veo difícil. Because with Messi on the field, earlier this year they got blown out. Without Messi on the field, they got blown out. I think that they'll make adjustments, and it'll be because of the moment. It'll be tighter. La jerarquía de Inter Miami va a pesar. Their experience, their know-how, that will help them. Maybe you can go to penalty kicks and you can advance that way.
Oh, come on.
I see it tough, man. I see it tough. I see it as tough. I don't think there's going to be a blowout. No creo que sea goleada como los otros dos. But as of right now, with what I forecast, no Messi, no Jordi Alba, right now, today, I would predict an Inter Miami elimination. Defeat in the regulation. Maybe by penalty kicks, but I don't think they get through. All right. I'm curious to see how the assistant, I'm sure Javier Mascherano is like sitting with his technical staff and it's like, since I'm not going to be able to call you, these are the subs that need to happen if the game goes this way. These are the subs that need to. He's going through every nook and cranny, leaving no stone unturned before Wednesday's big match. Jose, I think that does it. I think we will leave it there, unless you have something else to add. I don't know. You seem like you had something.
No, I was just thinking that we made a mistake by saying live on the pod that once you're in the booth right next to the press box, we can actually hear what people are saying in that booth. Because if Mascherano ends up sitting in that booth, then he's going to restrain himself from saying stuff that will be juicy for us to hear.
Maybe, sarcastically he responded. I thought it was sarcastic, but it might be true. He actually he told you when you asked where he's going to watch the next game. If you asked him, are you going to sit there again against Orlando City? He's like, maybe, or maybe I'll watch it from my house.
No, hell no. If you can take that, that's not happening.
Maybe.
Doubt it.
All right. We'll leave it there. Thank you, Jose, for joining me here on this special Sunday episode. A lot of viewers, a lot of listeners today. I like Sundays for the show. It's hard to do because of our schedules. It's about to get harder when when my new signing arrives, my baby arrives. So, but I do like Sunday shows. I would like to try to get it done more consistently. We'll see. We'll see if we can do. I don't want to make any false promises, but we'll leave it there. I'm going to try to get a show on Tuesday. It'll probably be in Spanish. We've done our English recap of it all, but I will let you guys know on social media, on Twitter, whether it will happen or not. So, for Jose Armando, aka Island Jose, aka Cinco, I am Franco Panizo. You have been watching or listening a jam-packed episode of Miami Total Fuba. No me salió la radio. We will talk to you guys very soon.